Hi, everyone. I'm Daniel Gonzalez. It's nice to see you all today, or nice for you guys to hear us today. I'm joined right now with Pastor Norman Howell. How you doing today, sir?
We are blessed.
Awesome. Well, today on Practical Ministry, we're going to be talking about sacrifices in ministry and the reality of ministry. And so what I wanted to kind of pitch to you was our perspective from the millennials and the younger generation of ministry and kind of get your feel on the whole matter, because you've been in ministry for how long?
Since the beginning of time. Let's see. I graduated from high school in 1971. I was already the youth leader, then became an associate youth pastor before I was 20, then left for seminary, got started in seminary, and then I got invited for one semester to take some time off and have some practical ministry.
Sure.
You've heard the advertisement about, I love the product so much I bought the company.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I didn't buy the company, but I married the CEO.
That'd be your wife, Pastor Sandra.
And got involved with her team that was ministering in Latin America, and one semester turned into a lifetime.
So then you've got about 60 years then, from 1971 to where we're at now.
Well, I'm 70, so about
Somewhere
50 years.
50 years, excuse me. I added 10.
Please, don't add 10 yet.
So I've got 16 years. I came in when I was 17 and immediately got started in youth ministry, and I was being led under a pastor, and my brother as well, and we have about 16 years now. So there's a vast difference between what we did and what you guys did, right? You've got multiple decades on us. But the point that I wanted to bring up was I think there was a different perspective in ministry as well, because when we were growing up, church culture was very different. There was rock bands that played church music, popular rock bands, stuff that you would hear on the radio. And it was really mainstream, and to a point, it was cool to be a Christian. And there was brands, there was Not of This World was a great brand that we were growing up, and everyone loved it. There was bumper stickers. It was cool.
Yeah.
You had a group to be a part of. And we thought that that was ministry. We thought it was to go on the stage and get people to cry and get people to have an emotional experience. And it was the thousands of people. And that's what we thought ministry was. And years later, we started to see the real side of ministry.
Much more
Yeah.
to it.
And I guess that's what I was thinking about when I wanted to bring you on was there's a lot of people that see you on Sunday for an hour, but they really don't connect with you. They don't really know you.
There's no possible way.
There's too many people. And they may have an idea of what you do outside of Sunday.
Such a cool job. You just work 1 hour each week. You know? Yeah.
And I think that was the point, is to show that reality and kind of what real sacrifices ministers do, at least ministers that are trying to take care of their flock, because we can't expect, or I think that there are ministers all over the world that are abusing their flock. They are using them for finances and stuff. But you guys,
Like
I mean,
in any industry.
we've been under you for so long. We trust you 100%. And you
God,
guys have
love
been
it.
transparent with us so much that it's like, you're the real deal. And so I guess the
Thank
question
you.
is what are those sacrifices in ministry? What does it mean to be a minister? What do you give up?
Oh, wow. Well, let me go back to the beginning. When I had an experience with Christ, I fell on an altar at the ripe old age of almost 17,
Okay.
about 17. And I had gotten to a place where I was burned out. It's amazing how you can be burned out at 17 years of age.
Sure.
And I'll see that today. And the old part of me says, but you've got so much to live for. And yet if you feel burned out, you feel burned out.
Yeah.
And I was very burned out. But then
And you were burnt out because of ministry. You were doing ministry at that time as a young boy.
I was burnt out because I was loaded. I was burnt out because I was raised in the church, but I wanted to be cool.
Got you.
And so I got involved with the wrong crowd at
Understood.
about 15, 14 and a half, 15,
Gotcha.
and hung out with the wrong people. And
You're in California at this time.
yeah,
Okay,
yes,
gotcha.
yes, West Los Angeles.
Got it.
And so I was involved in both in the church world, since that time I was a baby,
I understand now.
deeply involved. Parents were volunteers and everything. I was such a good little boy,
Okay.
precious little boy, never did anything wrong.
Sure. And there's that rebellious side coming
But
in.
then, 14, 15,
I'm done.
I wanted to be me. I wanted to find me.
Yeah.
But I didn't know how to do half measures and things. And so I got into a lot of trouble.
Sure.
And I can remember the vice principal almost shaking me, saying, "You're a habitual delinquent. What are we going to do with you?"
Habitual delinquent.
Yeah. And I believed him. I said, "Well, I guess so." And skipping school and
Okay.
all that kind of stuff, But for some reason, before I truly burned myself out, I can remember the question being posed to me, where are you going to go? What is it that really matters? And deep down in my heart, I knew that the only thing that really mattered was Jesus.
Okay.
Because I had, as a little boy, an experience with God, and it was real. It was genuine. But I'd, like so many of us, I'd gotten away from it. So, all of a sudden, at 17, I'm a different person. But
Understood.
and I knew that there was a certain awareness, and I think that's, when you get into the talk about sacrifice, what sacrifice is there in one sense?
Sure.
Because I realized that my life was no longer my life.
That makes sense. Yeah.
When I went into the waters of baptism, that old person died.
Sure.
It tried to resurrect itself at times.
Yeah.
But, I had that moment to be able to look back and say, no, that old person is gone. And so it wasn't a sacrifice.
Okay.
And yet you realize there's so much inside of you
Okay.
that you still need to work on. And that's where little by little you die to yourself.
Well, that's a good point to ask then, because you're saying there is this moment of what am I really giving up? Absolutely. But the question then becomes, in the practical sense, right, and the show's called Practical Ministry, looking at it from that lens, do you have the whole week to yourself? Do you go on a 2-week vacation whenever you want? I mean, what is it is it a regular schedule for a minister, or is it an erratic schedule?
Oh my gosh, well,
Are nights, don't call me after 9 p.m. anyone?
I wish.
Do you get that luxury?
Yeah, no. Well, I do, unless you're on my favorites list. After 11 p.m., I probably don't take as many calls as I once did, but nonetheless, here I am telling this, but, if you call multiple times, it'll go through. And there have been many occasions where dear precious saints and different ones have been in a car accident, had a cerebral hemorrhage, you name it.
Yeah.
I was with my doctor the other day just getting a general exam, and I asked him how long he'd been practicing, and it was like 32 years.
Okay.
And I said, well, we're coming up on 40 years pastoring. He says, well, really? He says, we have the same job in some ways. He says, I'm taking care of the physical, you're taking care of the spiritual. And I said, well, I'm a soul doctor.
Sure.
And so, I had to realize that long ago, and it all goes back to that original premise that my life is not my own.
Yeah.
Therefore, I have to do what he was called to do and follow in his example and his footsteps. That doesn't mean I'm not selfish,
Yeah.
because I am.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean I don't like nice things, because I do.
Sure.
But I also have to always go back to the premise, the understanding that I'm here to follow Jesus. And so though I might fight against my self
Yeah.
wants. Yes, I am there to sacrifice my time and my energy, and but you also have to have discernment. The Bible says to be wise as serpents and harmless as doves.
Sure.
And so if you just pour out everything and there's nothing left, then are you going to be able to be there tomorrow? So
Yeah.
God has to give you wisdom
To have a balance
to
there.
have a balance in life.
So, but definitely it's not a 9 to 5 job.
Oh, no. No,
It's an
and
around the clock job.
it's extremely quiet here some
Some
moments.
days. Okay.
Except when some of our younger staff are here. But it can be extremely quiet, and then, well, I won't say all
It
hell
opens up
breaks.
like
I
baseball.
won't say all hell breaks
Yeah.
loose, but
Yeah. It'll just
it all
pop open.
breaks loose.
Yeah, it all breaks
It
loose.
all opens up.
And so like a week, 2 weeks, it's like I'm on, like no matter what.
Yeah, no matter what, no one asks permission
To get sick.
to get sick or to die.
Yeah.
We can plan your wedding out 6 months in advance, hopefully, or a year in advance, hopefully. But no one gives us warning. Very rarely do we know, well, we need to start scheduling something for a funeral. That happens. Crisis happens. And then you always have the wonderful pressure. It's not a bad pressure. It's a good pressure. Because unless you're under a certain amount of pressure, and that's true for all of us in any endeavor you're involved with, if you get too relaxed and too laid back and say, oh, okay, sera, whatever will be, or, you have to prepare yourself. And
Okay.
Sunday, I have noticed, comes every week. It's remarkable.
It's remarkable.
It really
We have
is.
4 of them in a month.
Oh my
At least.
gosh. And so you have to study, you have to prepare yourself, but to do that, you also have to get alone. But then you have to carry a sword and a shovel or pickaxe all at the same time.
Sure.
I wear many hats.
That was what I was going to say, is that from the first thing I thought of, well, first off, it's not a 9 to 5 job to be a minister. You're on
No.
all the
no,
time.
No, I'm here. I could be here at 11 o'clock at night, and for me, it's no big deal.
and
It's
then
just
here
part
at 4
of
in
my
the
life.
morning as well. Like,
But then, I might not show up the next day.
sure. All right, that makes sense. But the other side, it sounds like agency as well is gone. Like you don't really get to pick your days. Like the world and if you will, God picks the days for you. It's like I wasn't supposed to come into the office, but someone got sick. We had a crisis. We had a catastrophe. And
Oh,
too
yeah.
bad, so sad. You're on.
Or, thank you, Jesus, I have that opportunity.
I have the opportunity. You're getting to use me.
Yeah.
So whichever lens you want to use.
I try to put a positive spin
Sure,
on it.
absolutely. Which
I
is-
mean,
but that's-
I moments I'm going, oh my gosh, why now?
But that's a human
But
side. It's
that's
just saying,
human side, but-
I planned this. I was supposed to do this.
But then
this isn't fair.
You have to believe,
Uh-huh.
otherwise everything starts falling apart.
Yeah.
I have to believe God knows the beginning from the end, and He knew some of these things were coming down and when they would come down.
Sure.
And would it be good for me to know in advance? Probably not.
Yeah. I mean, you'd
I
probably freak
over-
yourself out.
Or I'd overthink it.
Sure, that makes sense.
And there are a lot of times when it seems spontaneous, but that's where hopefully you've spent time in His presence, you've spent time in His Word, you've talked to Him during the course of your normal journey, whatever
have that
normal journey,
trust.
to have that trust, so that when that happens, say, oh, Jesus, you just whisper a prayer, say, Jesus, help me, Lord. And boom, all of a sudden, you give me, if I have a sense of direction, I'm a chilled out kind of guy.
Well, that's an interesting question, and that's a nice little segue there because we're talking about agency a little bit. How does that agency affect spouses or family? You have an interesting situation here where your spouse is in ministry with you, but not every minister has the same situation, or they have a larger family. Are there sacrifices when it comes to family? That's just the name of the game.
It is a constant, careful balance. My wife and I used to always tack on an extra day or two to a ministry event in some other country where we'd have time on our own.
Okay.
But we never had a vacation.
I understand.
And we realized at a certain point that that was wrong. We needed to have that
Break
break, that selah, that pause and consider.
to recoup.
We're not taking a break from Jesus, but we're refreshing ourselves. And as we do that, because it is crazy, I can remember
Yeah.
back in the day, my wife ministering on the phone and our little boy, popping her shoulder.
Really?
Saying, get off the phone, get off the phone. But she was dealing with some crisis situation. And that's where you have to balance things out. And we always had the attitude that our child could walk into the office at any time, no matter what we were doing.
Okay.
He had that entrance.
Understood.
And I think that's a healthy,
Family comes first here.
that's very important.
And maybe some ministers, especially young ministers like us, we might just be like, no, the job. Like, it's the job, and it's the job. But
I'm sacrificing my life for the cause of Christ.
But you've definitely learned that over the course of 50 years, like, you got to have time for the family.
What profiteth a man to gain the whole world and lose his own soul? And your family is part of that, and so you want to be able to have a healthy family.
Sure.
So you have to, and there is no one single, this is the way. You have to be sensitive.
To
you
find
have
that
to
balance.
find a balance in it.
That makes sense. Yeah, because I think a lot of people, especially like us, we're just so used to the millennials and the younger generation. Like, we're just like, I guess it's all job, it's all work, and I've got to get myself ahead. And then you get into ministry, and you find out the reality of, man, it's tough. Like you said, it's around the clock job some days. And even in our side, my wife some days will be like, honey, I haven't seen you in a couple days. And it's like, goodness, like, it's true. I've been on for so long that I'm forgetting the responsibility that God gave me to my family.
And what could be more important than your relationship with your family?
Yeah.
If you lose that, like, well, what do you really have?
That's an interesting balance that it
So
should be brought up.
You have to stop and examine those things and examine your heart.
Yeah.
Because I enjoy working. I do.
I would not have known. No, I'm just kidding.
But reality says relationships are more important than stuff.
It's very Mary and Martha.
True.
Very much Mary and Martha.
And
there.
so there are moments when, it would be easier for me to go home and, plan this other things out. Make these contacts and text people that, well, let's plan for this, let's do that, or are you okay? Good things to do when people are going through things. But yet your other half, your better half, is right there and wanting to watch something on TV
Leno.
that has no deep intrinsic value to it.
Just fun.
Except that you are connecting to each other.
Sure.
So you have to put the silly phone down,
Yeah.
put it on silent, and live in the moment. Sometimes
sense.
you have to live in the moment.
Well, that's a great segue actually because I gleaned that from you as well, is that if you're putting the phone down, there's got to be someone to answer it though. And it sounds to me that the reality of ministry and the sacrifice to some degree is it ain't a one-man job. You
No.
got to have to learn how to work out with people, right?
Well, Moses is a famous story.
Aaron.
Yeah, he was this amazing leader and it's tremendous. But he was going 24/7. And so many people were asking him what the answers were to A, B, or C
Sure.
question. And he had to, his family came to him. His father-in-law said, modern vernacular, dude, what's wrong with this picture here?
Yeah.
You cannot continue like this, because what would happen, they were in a battle and he'd get tired. And as long as he held his hand up, they would be winning in the battle. But he'd get tired.
Yeah.
And he couldn't hold his hand up forever.
Sure.
So he had to get people to help him to hold that hand up. And so I have to realize this is no matter how great an anointing might be there, you are not enough.
Sure, that makes sense.
You are part of a body,
Yeah,
and the body has to work and function. Otherwise, you're really not depending on God. You're depending on my
Myself.
anointing.
that makes
That
sense.
doesn't-
So it's not a lone wolf thing. It's
Oh,
not a Rambo
oh
thing. Like
no, it
you're going to work
shouldn't
with
be.
people.
You've got to.
Yeah.
And you've got to trust them.
Uh-huh.
And are they going to do things exactly the way you want to?
Mm-hmm.
Probably not.
Because
You
we
know-
all work directly the way you want us to,
Well,
right?
you know, oh yes, always. But you know, if you give instructions to paint that barn red, and they paint it green,
Uh-huh.
then you know that maybe we're not in the same ballpark here.
Sure.
But if they see red a little differently and it has a little bit more of a pink hue to it, or what, you
Yeah.
know, then you have to say, you know what? Who cares?
We're moving forward.
We got to move forward.
Yeah.
If that's the way you saw it, then let's flow with
So-
it.
and
You know,
back to
let
the-
it let it go because
to
it's
the- mhm.
yeah.
Back to the one that we had said though, you're giving up agency. Like not only is
Oh,
it
yeah.
you're giving up your agency with God, but you're working with people, and you got to give it up. Like it's not going to be exactly what you want.
It was never mine to begin with.
Uh-huh.
I'm in Spanish. For those that speak Spanish, you know, I'm the peón número uno. And you know, you've got to have that attitude that you're there as a servant.
It wasn't yours to begin with.
It wasn't mine.
Sure.
It's Jesus is the head of the church, and whatever I am, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I may be a little finger, whatever, but it's every joint, every person supplying.
So you can't that's hard. That's a sacrifice for our alphas that are just like it's my way or the highway. It's like it ain't
It
gonna
is-
work that way. You're probably gonna be pushing
It is
people
very
away.
hard, yeah, and I get it. You know, the varying degrees of being driven, but I like things being done with a certain amount of excellence. But
Sure.
again, you know, I've also come to realize that it's the end result of healthy people that I want.
Sure.
It's not having a system that works perfectly.
That makes sense. Well, and even a little segue off of that, it sounds like one of the sacrifices is you're going to be a leader in ministry, no matter what. Like you have to be able to lead people
For example,
through example. Absolutely. And so there is no hiding in the background. I'll just do my job. Like, you know, very clerk. I show up
That'd
at
be
9, I leave
nice.
at 5. See
I
you all
love
later.
it.
I did it. You don't get that.
I look at people like that and say, I envy you. Seriously.
What a world. Wouldn't that be wonderful?
I could walk away.
Yeah, but you're going to lead
But
people.
I can't walk away because, well, one thing, I care.
Mhm.
And if you care, I mean, if you don't care, then you're interested in the outcome so that you can be a success. But if you're interested in the people, it's not always a straight line. You can fail, and then succeed with someone. They can spit in your face, and you feel like, I've blown it here. Somehow I'm not connecting to the. But somewhere you have to be a living sacrifice. God has called us to be a living sacrifice. Go figure.
Yeah.
As Jesus sacrificed himself.
Yeah, so you're definitely leading. And I think a little segue off of that, another sacrifice, it sounds like, it's that you're going to have to be humbled quite a bit. Talking about people spitting in your face. Maybe it's your team. Maybe it's the people that you're leading. And how do you do that as a minister when it's just like, gosh, this person just smacked me in the face, and I still going to love them on Sunday?
Absolutely.
Yeah. How do you do that, though? How do you
I
get
don't
through it?
know. Tell
I'm
me
still
the way.
working on that one.
No, but I mean, that's where you have to get alone with Jesus. You got, you know,
It's exhausting.
don't let the sun go down in your anger. You've got to get that you have to take dominion over that and lay your feelings aside
Yeah.
for the sake of the gospel, because it is not my ministry. You're not my sheep.
Yeah.
You know, we balance it out between, I can remember one gentleman saying years ago, well, I'm not a sheep, I'm an eagle. I'll go, well, okay, that's great, you know, but we changed roles,
Okay.
but we are all sheep. We are all sinners who have gone astray, and we need a good shepherd. And we are under shepherds, and seeing that person out there that needs to be brought back into the flock, not to control them.
Yeah.
I'm not here to judge you, but I can perceive where your heart is. If I'm given that opportunity, and if I'm a person of prayer, then I can see into the situations of your life and hopefully be able to give you encouragement so that it's your decision.
Sure, that makes sense. But I still gotta love you no matter what.
It's come to that.
Well, a fun little segue to finish off everything is that earlier you had said that you had to wear many hats, and it sounds like in ministry that's another thing you have to give up, is that you don't just get to do your job. You're going to be learning a lot of jobs in ministry.
Yeah, and that's what's cool.
Okay. So is
I'll go
it
back.
more of a sacrifice, or is it more
Well,
cool?
Well, it's an opportunity.
Okay.
That is also very humbling and sacrificial.
Okay.
But I can remember way back in the day when I was this age of some of our younger staff, and I was wanting to know, what am I going to do with my life? Where am I going?
Okay.
And there was these different, I'm just telling you what I thought.
Sure.
Some of it sounds kind of funny now, but part of me, I wanted to be in public service
Okay.
as a diplomat. I wanted to be the ambassador to Romania or wherever.
Okay.
Well, Tahiti preferably, but
A little bit nicer.
yeah. But I wanted to be a career diplomat.
Okay.
That was one of the things I honestly considered something enjoyable.
Okay.
But then part of me, I was raised literally as a little boy in Hollywood. Hooray for Hollywood.
Yeah.
And off of Fairfax and La Brea, just a couple blocks from CBS Studios.
Okay.
And so, and a lot of the students I went to school with were in the industry.
Okay.
And so I naturally gravitated towards the industry and wanted to be involved in it. I remember there was a program I tried out for called The Young Americans.
Okay.
And it was a singing deal and dancing and a little bit of everything, you know. And I went to one of the deals, and you know, I was interested in that. And some of the young people that I associated with, their parents were famous actors, and others were directors, and so I was interested in that. So you have a career diplomat here, then you have a desire to be
Motion picture.
motion
industry.
pictures, some sort of entertainment
In the
industry.
industry.
But then on top of that, I was fascinated with the law, but I didn't want to just so much be a lawyer. I wanted to be a judge. I don't know. What can I say? I don't know. I thought judges were so fascinating because they had to not cut the baby in half. They had to make
Sure, very Solomon, I get you.
good choices that would affect people.
Okay.
Now, all those wide variety of things, and I end up becoming a pastor, well, there is a certain amount of, I've got to get your attention on Sunday.
Got you.
There's got to be a spark, something that wakes you up as I communicate truth to you. If that isn't entertainment in a form,
Sure.
I don't know what is.
I get you.
But at the same time, I am very much involved with diplomacy. I'm very much involved in trying to bring a group of people together from so many different cultures and backgrounds.
And where we live, we don't even have that many different ones versus other places, Dallas,
Oh,
SA,
my
New York,
goodness.
which is like, how do I get all of these different people and different cultures on the same page?
And then different ages. Oh my gosh, that's a whole, we could do a whole
Yeah.
program on that, but you know, that as well. And then, you know, being able to rightly divide the word of truth and say, you know, this is the way we're going to go.
Sure.
You know, make a decision. And so you put all that together, and somehow, for whatever reason, and I'm not trying to be humble.
Sure.
I'm really not. but God does use the foolish things
Found the wise.
to confound the wise. And so he sent me to a people that are not my people, with a language that was not my language. I'm a good Norwegian, born in Minnesota, and then went to California as a youngster. But yet God took me to a community that's one of the highest percentages of Hispanics in the United States.
That's right.
And planted me here. I couldn't do this on my own.
Yeah.
It had to be the Holy Spirit, but it wasn't my idea. It was his. So if you don't like me, take it up with him. I'm here.
Well, that's pretty much the end of the show, Pastor Norm. Thank you so much for talking about those sacrifices. We went through a lot of really fun things that I think will open up a lot of really fun dinner table discussions.
Well, hopefully.
And, yeah, and I think a lot of people got to know a side of you that they have never known. They've only seen you on Sundays, which is fantastic.
My pleasure.
And so thank you, sir. Absolutely.
God bless.
God bless.